Many years ago, while I was abroad, I once saw a realistic watercolor landscape painted by an amateur artist. It was a quarter-size painting. What surprised me was not that the painting was particularly outstanding. It was actually quite ordinary. But that he was able to complete such a realistic and detailed watercolor study in only 1.5 hours. Originally, this watercolor artist specialized in highly detailed, photo-based realism. In theory, this kind of approach should not work very well in outdoor sketching. Yet, to my surprise, he was able to paint quickly while still achieving a convincing likeness. Unfortunately, just like his carefully rendered studio works, this sketch was equally dull and lifeless. I think I understand what was happening. Thinking face whether painting indoors or working outdoors from life. If one merely copies what is in front of the eyes without actively pursuing a personal intention for the image, without engaging the mind, and simply passively reproducing the objects, it is far easier than I had imagined. It can even be done much faster. So, how do I paint watercolors? Regardless of whether I am painting on location or working from a photograph, before making any preliminary sketches, I always ask myself, what is the reason that makes me absolutely need to paint this? Is it the form or the lines? Is it the colors or the light and shadow? Is there an imagined image already forming in my mind? Does this imagination stir my emotions and make me unable to resist painting it? This crucial ability of imagination is deeply connected to one's personal artistic taste and cultivation. Once I understand why this subject must be painted, the intention of the image gradually emerges in my mind. Then I use simple tools to create preliminary sketches and organize the structure of the composition. I like to use a pencil and sketchbook to quickly capture the reason why this must be painted through lines, while simultaneously designing the distribution and proportion of the largest light and dark shapes. If the sketch produces a successful version of the idea, proving that the original imagined intention is effective, then the execution can finally be handed over to the techniques of the medium. As for watercolor techniques, I could talk about them for 3 days and 3 nights. But remember this, the presence of imagination and structural thinking determines whether a painting has the potential to become a masterpiece. It could also be said that imagery, structure, and technique are 3 interconnected universes of painting. Each contains endless variations and possibilities, enough to spend 3 lifetimes exploring them and still never reach the end. Following the guidance of the sketch, I establish the major areas of color and shape. At that point, the sketch has completed its mission and quietly steps aside. The next stage is the long and difficult middle battle. Unlike the realistic watercolor painter I mentioned earlier, who uses a method of stitching together detailed realistic sections until the entire painting is filled and completed, I do not work that way. Whenever I enter a specific area or detail, deciding how much to paint, how strongly to emphasize it, or how lightly to suggest it, I always consider the entire composition first and then choose the solution that best serves the whole image. If several areas require attention at the same time, I begin with the one that is most certain and clearly defined. This is what I often call the go game method of painting. At this point, I remove the painting board from my desk and place it on the easel. Then I step back as far as possible, sit down, and think about my next move. This period of sitting and contemplation may last 3 minutes on a quick day, or more than half an hour on a slower day. It is completely normal. A small 8K watercolor painting may go through this process dozens of times. A large-scale painting may require hundreds of these moments of meditation before it is finally completed. Whether I can break through the middle stage and successfully enter the final stage of resolution depends entirely on this repeated process of stepping back, observing, and seeing the painting as a whole. During this period, I constantly create difficulties for myself and search for flaws. Anything that does not satisfy my artistic judgment is eliminated without mercy. If it succeeds, I move forward to the next step. If it fails, I find a way to erase it and start again. By the end, even a single line or a single dot may require several attempts. Sometimes 2 out of 3 attempts fail. It does not matter. Once you can see the problem clearly, it is no longer a problem. Perhaps because I constantly demand such a high standard of aesthetic judgment from myself, I am often able to immediately recognize weaknesses in other people's watercolor paintings at first glance. Only those with a solid foundation can recognize where others lack confidence. Before beginning a painting, ask yourself more questions about why. After beginning a painting, give yourself more criticism and find more flaws. Many people think I am arrogant, but that is a great misunderstanding. Believe it or not, throughout more than 30 years of painting, I have always been accustomed to doubting myself and pouring cold water on my own enthusiasm. The kind of self-propaganda where one constantly tells oneself, "I'm doing great," brings no benefit to my art. Sometimes I see international viewers giving me very high evaluations, even ranking me among the top artists. Honestly, I do not believe it. How could that be possible? With what I have achieved so far, there are still so many problems I have not solved to my satisfaction, and so many images and ideas waiting to be realized. There must be countless artists in this world who paint better than me and possess more unique artistic voices. But I have always suspected that I am not good enough, and that, I believe, is something worth being proud of.